Yes, Vortex, very few people can argue both sides of a political debate or political view, whatever you want to call it. But I've thought very thoroughly about everything. Everything! Every motherfucking thing I've thought about it. But really though, abortion is definitely like one of those like hot button issues that people feel so like self-righteous about. Like that's just something I've noticed with both camps. It's like people that are pro-life, like they don't understand how anybody could possibly look at an unborn fetus like maybe it deserves better than to grow up with a drug addict parent. maybe it shouldn't fall into the hands of CPS. Maybe it shouldn't grow up with an alcoholic for a daddy. There are things like that they don't really think about, obviously. But then, you know, the other side of that, people that are really in favor of that choice, it's like they don't understand how if they hadn't made the choice to have sex, this wouldn't even be an issue. Which is why I think we need to change the conversation to sex. We need to talk about sex. And when it comes to safe sex, that shouldn't involve just using a condom or being on racist birth control, okay? That shit is racist. If you don't know the history, you ought to look it up. Margaret Sanger was a piece of garbage, okay? But, yeah. It's like people don't want to be told that their conduct is wrong. People just want to keep making bad decisions. You know, like the whole abortion thing is so terrible because it's like, if you're pro-choice, you're basically encouraging women to make bad decisions. You know, that's really what that means. I'm not even remotely suggesting that all women should be moms, okay? I'm not suggesting that a woman that has an unwanted pregnancy, her words, should be a mom. I don't think that's a good idea at all. And I'm thinking about this from like the child's perspective. Not just from her perspective, because fuck her, she's fucking selfish and irresponsible, right? Well, yeah, why should she be the one that does that? You know? I mean, I don't think that a lot of people learn stuff. Just from what I've seen. Many people don't seem to learn from their mistakes. And if they don't learn from their mistakes, then they're just going to keep making mistakes. And their kid is going to feel like a mistake. Because technically they were, you know? I mean, that's how I've always felt. And so I've had to live with this feeling of being a mistake my entire life. Because I'm adopted. And people that don't have that experience, they don't know what that's like. And so it's like I have to live with this mistake that my parents made, who I don't know. And I don't know, like, anything about, like, my family history or, you know, I'm sure they had a history of mental illness. But, yeah, I mean, for all I know, like, my birth mother could have killed herself, you know? It wouldn't surprise me at all, considering. But yeah, people always tell me, well, you could just go on, what's that, Ancestry.com or whatever. I'm like, no, fuck that. I want to find her organically. I'm not going to do it on the internet. I hate the internet so much. I hate looking stuff up on the internet, like people I haven't seen in a while. It just depresses me so much. Like, there was this guy that I went to high school with, and I saw him randomly at the grocery store, and I just, like, ran in the other direction because I didn't want to have that awkward conversation. Even though it wouldn't have to be awkward, I'm just in my head about everything, and I was thinking, well, it's better than looking him up on Instagram. It's better than seeing him on Facebook or something like that. But it's still awkward. Like, if I don't want to run into people at a grocery store, I definitely don't want to look them up on the internet. You know? Anyway, back to my point. It's like, I have to live with the decision that my parents made. And I guess I wouldn't have to live with it if they had killed me. If they had decided to suck me out with a vacuum, I wouldn't have to live with it. And I wouldn't be pissing people off on this lovely little channel that you see. But yeah, like, the sins of the parents, like, the children are gonna feel the fuck out of that. That's what I'm saying. So I get why a lot of women say that abortion should be kept on the table. But what I don't get is why people aren't giving both women and men a lot of grief for the fact that we have lowered our standards in our society to the extent that we don't think better of our children. We don't think better of, like, our bodies. Like, we're just gonna have sex. We're gonna have sex with somebody, probably gonna be out of wedlock, right? We're not gonna be ready to have a child. And either we have a child in a less than ideal situation. I know that most situations are less than ideal, right? Or we just kill it. You know, like, both of these options are bad. That's what I'm trying to say. That whether you have an abortion or you just have a child because you don't want to have an abortion, I don't think that people should have children all because they get pregnant. That's the point, okay? And if that makes me a bad person, that makes me a bad person. But I'm just looking at it from the bigger picture. Like, a lot of Republicans love to bitch about all the bad decisions that people make, but they don't understand that it starts with the sex. It starts with, you know, how we're conceived. And if we're conceived out of wedlock to parents that don't love each other, I mean, those children are going to have to live with that. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, we need to think better of ourselves. And I know this sounds a bit fascist, but you know, I think that we should have strict regulations on sex. I think there should be penalties. There should be penalties if we make grave mistakes that negatively affect other people, like children, okay? Anyway. I'm definitely like a think outside the ballot box kind of motherfucker. I like to keep seeking solutions outside of the realm of reality because reality isn't real anyway. And what people talk about is they're just skimming the surface. They don't know how to really delve into these topics in order to come up with solutions that make logical sense. And when people talk about abortion, they get way too emotional about it, especially pro-life people. Because there are way better cases that both of these different viewpoints, people that have these viewpoints, they can make way better cases than the ones that they make. But they're so infantilized because of our political climate. But, you know, that's why we do this channel. One of the many thousand reasons.